So mysticism is the inner or esoteric aspect of every religion. It's already there. But I would say even further, it existed before religion. It will exist after religion. It is already hardwired into who you are. The connection to whatever you want to call that power we call God, Allah, Jehovah, Rahim, is already within you. And if there is a definition of a mystic, it is one who connects to that on a moment-to-moment basis. So when we look at all of the world's religions, we see that the mystics all had the same experiences. They all talk about an ineffable light. When you read about the experiences of people who've had out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, they all talk about one light uniting this whole creation. They talk about an unconditional love. A love that binds each and every one of us to one consciousness, which is love. And our brothers and sisters here are talking about the immortal spirit, the eternal life that each and every one of us already are. So that light, that love, and that life is already available to every single one of us. It's who we are. It's your Buddha nature. It's your God self, your authentic self. It's who we were born to be. It's the Nur Allah, the Nur Muhammadiyah. It's the Nam in the Sikh tradition. It's the Word in the Christian tradition. It's the light that Jesus said should not be darkness. It's the Jyoti Shruti in the Hindu tradition. It's there. And the mystics have been beating this drum for the last 10,000 years. Are we ready to listen? Thank you very much.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. This is episode 2 for the In Tune show, which is hosted by the Interfaith Temple. And I am Reverend Dr. Samora Smith. I am the director for the Interfaith Temple, and it is my privilege and honor today to welcome Dr. Andrew Vidich. He is an award-winning author, consultant, and international speaker in the fields of meditation, mysticism, and leadership. He holds a doctorate in religion with a specialization in the transformational methods within different religious traditions and a specialization in Islamic Sufism. His most recent book, Let There Be Light, is a compendium of experiences of light and sound in all of the religious and spiritual traditions of the world. And his book, Light Upon Light, 5 Master Paths to Awaken the Mindful Self, won the Best Book Award in the category of Eastern Religion by USA Book News. Dr. Vidich is an assistant adjunct professor of religion at Manhattan and Iona colleges, and has taught courses in meditation, Islamic studies, religion, and death and dying. And it is my proud moment to also say that he has been with the new seminary for Interfaith Studies for at least the past 7 to 8 years as a teacher of comparative religion. So it is my privilege and honor to now welcome Dr. Vidich.
Thank you.
So it's lovely to have you here today. Thank you so much. And part of the role that I have in this podcast is to bring some vision to what is happening in current times and to possibly allow people to hear from you, what is a way to get through these times and a way to empower ourselves?
Yeah, it is challenging times for many, many reasons. And I remember a while back had a similar conversation under similar circumstances. And one of the things that I said at that time, which I think holds true even today, is that now is the time to work even harder and with greater resilience to the things that we hold dear. It's never a time to retreat or walk away from the challenges. One of my spiritual masters, Sant Darshan Singh Ji Maharaj, said, "Life is not worth its name if we don't meet the challenges of the times." And the challenges of the times today is to stand up for unity, for compassion, for love for all, for service to all creation, and for unity, divine unity. So these are the things that we should all be working for. And there will always be forces that oppose us, that are hell-bent on destruction and chaos. But we should always remember that this has been the case throughout history. Nothing new. As far back as you want to go, you will see the forces, the dark forces that have worked havoc on the planet, but you'll also see the great spiritual masters and and those who walk in their footsteps, holding out the banner of unity and truth. And so we have to just take stock of the reality that of what things are today, and live with the understanding of that each of us can make a difference in the whatever way that we are called upon.
That's beautiful. And I'm wondering, for any person right now that might feel in some way detached from their faith or not feeling um, comforted by their belief systems, how do how do you think that they can find some sort of peace within during this time?
Well, I think the real source of faith is not an outer belief, but an inner experience. So, and our spiritual teachers and masters in many traditions have said, faith is based on your experience. The faith that is based on purely belief, an intellectual concept, will be quite quickly shaken by outer events. But we need a faith that is based on inner experience, which does not change with the changing tides of fate, of politics, or economics, but is rooted in a direct experience of God. And once you've had a direct experience of God, then there's no question. I should say, put it another way, questions simply don't arise as to the reality of God and the reality of truth. So how can we get there? We can get there by tapping inside, which is what all of the great spiritual masters from time immemorial have said. Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not in the mall. It's actually not in the churches, the temples, or the synagogues either. And if we want to taste the kingdom of God, if we want to experience it, we have to invert. We have to go into meditation where we will find all the truth and reality that we're seeking. So my humble advice is the advice that our great masters and the masters of all tradition have given, which is sit down and explore the inner space that is within each and of us through whatever contemplative practice is available to you.
Thank you. That's very helpful. And I myself work in the field of sound and vibration, and I would love for you to talk a bit about your recent book that draws upon, that very topic, and just how I find that a lot of young people today are more aware of how energy is felt, and also that we are all, made of energy. So how does that really apply in this way as well with, what you've written?
Well, in my research and explorations, both academically and in a scholarly way, as well as my own personal explorations inside, the whole universe is nothing but a bundle of vibrations. And the root of all those vibrations is light and sound. So there are two types of vibrations, light and sound, on the outer level, and there's also two types of vibrations on the inner level. And everything, energy is just another form of vibration. We have many, many, many different kinds of energy. We have gravitational energy, we have nuclear energy, we have electromagnetic energy, we have atomic energy. But all of these are derived from the one source, which is the source of light and sound, which runs the whole universe. And that source has been called by many different traditions. In the Christian tradition, it's called the Word. And this is an unspoken, unwritten word. This is a primal vibration that has created the whole universe. In the Gospel of John, John says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God."
Mm.
And everything that was made through the power of the Word. So what is this Word? It is light and sound that came from absolute God and manifested the entire creation. It's been called Nur, Allah, or Nur Muhammadiyah in the Islamic tradition, Nur meaning light,
Mhm.
Allah meaning God. In the tradition of Hinduism, which has many, many sub-traditions, it's been called Jyoti, which means light, Shruti, which means sound. It's also been called Nad, which means primal vibration. It's been called Sarosha by the Zoroastrians. It's been called the clear light, or the transcendental hearing and transcendental seeing within the Buddhist tradition, and so on and so forth. So that primal experience is what is the God into expression power, which comes directly from God Absolute. So if we can imagine God as a unlimited manifestation of trillions and trillions of suns put together, that power descended and created each subsequent spiritual dimension from the astral, causal, supercausal, and then all the way down to this plane. So everything is vibration, and another name for that vibration coming through light and sound is love. So the entire journey then, if we're using this as the metaphor, is to get connected to that vibration, that inner divine light and sound principle.
Beautiful. Yeah, and it's a perfect transition in terms of speaking about love, because I know you also have a book about that particular vibration, and the connection to all things is really rooted in love, that we are love. And since, it's the day after Valentine's Day, maybe it's the perfect opportunity to speak about a little bit more on that topic as well, if you will.
Sure. So love is actually innate in our souls. It is who we are. It's the nature of our true existence. It's the nature of the soul. God is love. The soul is a drop of the ocean of that God consciousness, which is love. And therefore, the way back to God is also through love.
Mm.
Of course, love is the fruit of the tree. It's not what we think it is.
Mhm.
It's the final product. And in the same way that God is indescribable, truly, love is also indescribable. We have close experiences of that love, which are stepping stones to, I would call, the experience of true unconditional love, which is God's love. And we're all on that journey to deepen our experience of true and profound love. So, but it's important to note that love is not lust. Love is not infatuation. Love is not attachment. It is a completely selfless experience of unity with one another and with God simultaneously. And therefore, in that experience of unity consciousness, there are no others. There are only the one consciousness of love. So we're all on a journey to deepen, strengthen, and realize that experience. And in fact, I would say that all our coming into this world is a journey to discover first, to awaken to love, to gradually understand how to deepen that love, and that everything we do, our jobs, our careers, our relationships, our families, our friends, everything is really to learn the tough lessons of unconditional love, love that is completely selfless. And that love, of course, has been modeled by all the great spiritual masters over the centuries who sacrificed their own lives for the benefit of humanity and continue to do so selflessly. So we are learning how to walk slowly, step by step in their footsteps, hopefully. And the beauty is that the more we experience that love, the more it radiates out from us, and the more we become a catalyst for that change. So that love is actually the foundation of our existence. And those who seek it with grace and humility not only bask in its radiance, but also are empowered to change or transform the world.
Wow. That's just incredibly enlightening, honestly. And I believe that we spend a lot of time at the seminary learning from you and drinking the beauty of your words and your knowledge and your heart. And one thing I would love to know, and I'm possibly our audience would love to know, is a bit about your spiritual journey. If you would please enlighten us with that.
Yeah, sure. I can share a little tidbit here and there. I began my search when I was in my, I would say when I was about 11 or 12. I had a couple of very profound experiences. One of them was an experience of, I was just lying on the ground in my living room, in our living room. And for no reason in particular, but I closed my eyes and I just said, oh, I wonder what death is like. So I closed my eyes and I went into this kind of quiet silence. And this presence came over me and said, this is death. Death is, you're not dead, you're just without a body, without this body. So it was a kind of realization that came, which was completely unexpected. But it was that being completely still, in which I had no awareness of my body whatsoever, and feeling that I was still very much alive, even though I had no sensations of my physical body. And then that kind of transmission came that said, this is death. And it took away a lot of my fear of death, because I realized, oh, we are conscious beings, and that death is really nothing to worry about. So that was one experience. Later on in life, I remember it was late at night, and I was a little older, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13. I was sitting watching one of those horror shows that were very popular in the 60s. The early 60s, like a typical horror show. And I got very afraid. I don't know, 12, 13. I mean, it was really one of those horror shows that really get you. And I felt scared to my bones.
Mm.
And I went to bed with that fear. And I had a very powerful dream. And in the dream, a presence came into my body. And I felt this overwhelming peace that completely obliterated all the fear. And the voice said, "This is God."
Mm.
It was just out of nowhere. And I knew that there was nothing to fear. So those were two early experiences I had. So, but I kind of formally began a search when I was in junior high school. When I was seventh and eighth grade, I started reading a lot of spiritual books and attending and, just informing myself of all of the available literature. And that went on for 3, 4 years and kind of reached a crescendo in my senior year in college, where I was really at the point where I decided, having read many, many, many books, that I needed a spiritual teacher, and that all of the books that I had read emphasized the need for a spiritual teacher. So I was in the first year of my college education, and I decided I did not need a college teacher. I needed a spiritual teacher. So I dropped out of college,
Oh, wow.
unbeknownst to my
Hmm.
unbeknownst to my parents, and I began a search to find a spiritual teacher. At that time, I had no money, and I didn't tell my parents that I dropped out because they wouldn't have been too happy. But what happened was I started working cleaning ship decks in New Orleans, because that's where I was going, Tulane University.
Oh, wow.
And so shortly after this decision was made, I was walking past a bookstore, which was part of the university, and I saw a pamphlet, which was right in the front of the bookstore through the window. And it said, "The Way of Love." And it caught my attention. And I went into the bookstore and I asked if I could take a look at it. And they said, "Yeah, you can have it. Someone here just dropped it off." And left it. And because it was just a paper pamphlet. And there was a picture of of, of a man in a turban with a beautiful face radiating. And I took this and I started reading this 2-page pamphlet over and over and over again. And what struck me was the fact that the person, whoever wrote this, was speaking in a way I had never heard anyone speak before or write,
Mm.
because this person was speaking about direct experience, and it was clear in the writing that he was talking from a personal realization and not from book learning. It was distinctly different. It was just really um, there was a charging that was coming through the words that were um, kind of superimposed through the words, even though the words were powerful. There was a charging on top of that.
Mm.
So, anyways, I was carrying around this pamphlet for the next 2 weeks, reading it over and over again, reading it over and over again. Well, at the same time, working on the ship decks, trying to get enough money to go to India. I figured if I'm going to find a spiritual master, I'm going to have to go to India.
Yeah.
So that was my plan. 2 weeks after that initial incident, I was walking through the student union, and there was a picture of what seemed to be the same person who was on the pamphlet, and it struck my attention. It looked pretty similar, and it was a free public talk that was being held just 2 or 3 blocks from the university. So I immediately took the information down and I attended this public talk. Turned out I was the only one who came. And it turned
Wow.
out to be two disciples of the teacher in whom the pamphlet had been written by, who was Sant Gopal Singh Ji Maharaj. And they gave a talk for about an hour, and then I asked them questions for about 2 hours. And finally, they kind of kicked me out because I had been there for like 3.5 hours. And I was very intellectually convinced that this was the spiritual master I had been looking for. Subsequent to that, I had some very profound experiences of inner light and sound, which kind of reconfirmed. And then about a year later, I applied to be initiated by this great spiritual master. And in 1970, I applied for 1971, took initiation in 1972, and then Sant Gopal Singh came to the United States in 1972, and I went on a tour with him. So that's the the quick bio of how I
Wow.
actually came to this spiritual path. Yeah.
That's incredible. And it speaks to that saying that, when the student is ready, the teacher does truly show up.
Yeah, that's right. The master appears when the student is ready, right?
Yeah.
I believe that. I truly believe that. And
I really,
there is a power guiding all creation and every soul. And when the moment is right, when the fire and yearning gets strong enough, then the arrangements are made by the higher power for those people to be guided. It's all done for us. We don't have to. That's why people say, well, I'm looking for a spiritual teacher. No, you don't have to look for anything. The spiritual teacher will find you.
correct.
So
I
because that,
resonate with that as well.
yeah,
Yes.
and then we think we are finding the spiritual teacher, but these things are all actually, in many cases, preordained. It doesn't seem like it's preordained because we seem to be going through the act of personal will.
Mhm.
But these things, there's a divine alignment going on and a precision by which God brings souls back into the fold. So
Mhm.
no mysteries, and yet it's all a mystery.
Right. It's all a beautiful mystery.
Yeah.
So what would you say to a young or a curious minister, someone that wants to study or go on a path towards finding this love or being this love in the world? Um, before speaking to that, a lot of people sort of want to know, what is the difference between religion and spirituality? And why is it that, some people now are calling themselves a nun, literally spelt Nones, because many of them were raised and this is a study that was done, that many who were raised in religious households or, with a specific faith are no longer feeling connected in that way. And I would just love for you to speak on just the difference between religion and spirituality.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference. Originally, when we look at religions, we see that they were created by, for the most part, by the followers of a great spiritual master.
Hmm.
So that's important to note. So spiritual masters have come in all epochs and in all cultures and times. And they had profound experiences with truth, with God. And they left a body of writings we call scripture as guiding to guide those who want to achieve connection with God. And what happened after they left is many of the followers began to create a religion to honor the teachings of their spiritual founder. And this is how religions have developed. So God made man, or humans, and it is humans who have made religion. So we have to draw that distinction, first of all. That's an important distinction. So to be spiritual means to have a direct connection with the source. And does not mean you have to have a religion to do that. You don't need it. We actually don't need any intermediaries. If we need anything, we need a guide or a spiritual teacher to help us make that connection, like a catalyst. But the reality is, religions came after the spiritual masters, all right? So your spiritual experience does not require you being part of any religion. One can certainly be a part of a religion and also have those experiences. It doesn't preclude you. So one can be spiritual without a religious tradition. One can be spiritual within a religious tradition. But if you're spiritual, if you have a particular religious tradition, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, the goal is still the same, and that is to have a direct experience with God. And the religion simply becomes a guideline or a teaching or a map, so to speak, to help you get there. So I find many, many, many people today, and you're probably making this point, do not ascribe to any particular religion, but want to live a deeply spiritual, committed life. And my answer to them is that one can draw wisdom and knowledge and guidance from all the different traditions. But the one thing that is essential is a teacher of some sort who can guide you. So if you want to travel to the tops of the Himalayas, if you want to summit, then you're going to want to take a guide who has been there and done that. It's common sense. So if you're going to go up there, and nobody has ever summited Mount Everest without a Sherpa or guide. And because, first of all, there are just far too many dangers in going to those supernal heights that a novice would not understand. So in the same way, you can say God is Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And we need guidance in order to get to those heights. And we want to take guidance from not those who are scholars, but those who have direct personal experience and have been there and have walked the path themselves, like a Sherpa, like a true guide. So I think that part is essential. So I would say to young people, the important thing is find a spiritual practice, be committed to your spiritual practice, meditation, prayer, understand the basics of what it takes. And in due course, when the time is right, try to find a guide who can help you along the way to the goal that we're all seeking, right? So I also, just from another point of view, I know many, many, many young people are a little bit tired of religion these days because there's a lot of garbage or a lot of baggage attached to a lot of religions. And for that reason, the young people are saying, do I really need that? And the answer is you don't need the baggage. You do need the practice. You do need the ethical life, and you do need the guide. You need those essentials. But and I'm sure you've had this experience too, but there is a lot in all different religions that are frankly not only unnecessary, but unproductive and counterproductive spiritually. So, and there is a tremendous amount of misinterpretation of Scripture as well, or misapplication of Scripture. And so we have to be very careful not to fall into the trap of pseudo-religion, what I call pseudo-religion, or the traps of hypocrisy and fanaticism. Those are three big traps that many people fall into in following a tradition. the belief that only this religion or only that religion has the truth.
Mhm.
And that then you're walking on very dangerous ground that could crack and fall and leave you in a terrible abyss. And so those are some simple guidelines I would say to people who are seeking.
Yeah, and incredibly helpful. I do believe that right now there's a lot of division, and unfortunately, much of it is from a lot, the fundamentalism thinking of the other, and it's not productive for us when we look around and see we're all so unique and beautiful, and we all bring gifts. We all have the same light, yet we're all unique, and we all have a different thumbprint, as they say. And it's challenging for, as a parent myself of young children, college and middle school aged, to give that guidance when they see, so much of society dividing due to, supposed, religious, beliefs. And this path of ministry and being in this community has really helped me a lot. Being around so many people that come from different places and different thought processes and experiences.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100% correct. And the bottom line is the fundamental teachings of all the traditions are about unconditional love, loving kindness, compassion, mercy. And unfortunately, we talk a lot, but we don't often actually live the teachings within our own religion. So we have to be very, very careful to not assume that we have the final truth. That's very, very dangerous, and
Mhm.
that we are somehow better or more lucky than others. So that's actually why when we look at the history of religions, we see all of the religious wars that have been part of humanity going all the way back from the very beginning. And that's so, and this is the danger when you fall into fanaticism thinking that there is somehow one religion or one group of people is better than another. And
Mhm.
this leads to tremendous amount of suffering and has led to tremendous amount of suffering in practically all the religions. There are very few religions, perhaps Judaism is the one that has avoided that, and to some extent um, Hinduism as well. Um, we believe that your choice of how to worship is between you and the source, between you and God. And
Yes.
no one should interfere with that. But that any form of proselytism is actually a form of violence
Mm.
because you're imposing upon someone a belief that may or may not suit them. So we have to be very, very careful and always get back to the basics of what does love mean? How does love act? And stay very far away from any notions of proselytism that or demeaning any other faith, um, because that's very, very dangerous. And that's, unfortunately, we still have that even today.
Yes.
And we have religious bigotry and prejudice that are even around today. So that has to be avoided at all costs.
Yes. I agree. So before we go, I would love to know if there's, because this has been incredibly enriching to speak with you. And I thank you so much for your time here with us today. I would just love to hear, do you have any, um, just anything that you can share with the audience of specifically with people that are interested in helping others and in being part of community, of doing more during this time? Is there anything that you could give guidance there?
Oh, sure, sure. I would just go back to some of the basic guidelines we see in all traditions, as well as my own spiritual masters, there's some basic principles on the path that are helpful to everybody, whether you are religious or whether you are not, whether you are even an atheist or religious, it makes no difference. And these are some of the basic ethical guidelines that I think will help everybody at these times. And that is, first of all, to recognize that there is a divine purpose behind the life of everyone who comes into this world. No one has been created for nothing, and therefore we have something to learn from everyone. And so this is pillar number one, that we have to have love and respect the nobility, the beauty of each and every soul that is on this planet. And that includes our younger brothers and sisters, the animals, the birds, the bees, and so on and so forth as well. Because
Yes.
we are all part of one creation. We're all part of one grand oneness of life. So that, I think, is very, very important nowadays, to never, ever leave that cardinal principle. If we just followed that one alone, we would have peace on this planet, right?
Oh, yes.
So the second thing is to recognize that the highest thing that we can do here is to know ourselves and to realize that creator, that power we call God. And this is the fundamental purpose behind all religion, between all spirituality. And to keep that always as your highest goal and your most important work. It's the only work that nobody can do but you. And so keeping that always as the most guiding, most important thing that we do every day, what I call putting first things first, is a constant, it needs constant reminders, because we easily can get distracted. We can get pulled off our path by the many, many distractions and things that are going around us economically, politically, and get pulled off into all kinds of dead ends. And to always remember that's our highest work. And then the next, I would say, is to express in whatever way we can the notion of fellowship. What is fellowship? The way I explain fellowship is giving back the best of who you are to all humanity, whatever it is, whatever your special talents, whatever your special gifts, whatever your unique capacities, to give that back. And second of all, to share in the sufferings of others, to lift and to share in the sufferings of others. Wherever we see suffering, wherever we see pain, wherever we see orphans, wherever we see the abandoned, the marginalized, wherever we see prejudice and bigotry, we should do our best to remove that in whatever way we can. And so this is really a call to service. And each and every one of us has to find that special calling that we are gifted with. It could be anything, right? But if we want to develop spiritually, service is not an option, it's a prerequisite. And it's something we have to have. So lastly, I would say always remember that we're all one. Consciousness is one. All humanity is one. All life is one. And that unity already exists. We have only forgotten it. And we need to revive that age-old truth, because if we understand that unity, if we experience that unity, then there's no way we can hurt each other. There's no way we can not take care of each other. That's the loving kindness and compassion will be exuding out of our pores of our body. So, and lastly, I would say a very simple kind of mantra that one of our teachers has said, Samora Singh, he said, be conscious, be connected, and be caring. So being conscious means being conscious of who we truly are as drops of the ocean of all consciousness, being conscious of ourselves as part of this planet, as not separate from anyone else, being conscious of the unity that we already exist, being conscious of our highest role and our highest purpose here. Being connected means being connected on an individual level, not to isolate ourselves from others, but to be connected with and in relationship with not only God within, but with all of those whom we come in contact with. Be connected to the environment, being connected to the greater humanity and the world consciousness. And it's through that connection that we can make a difference. And then lastly, all of that translates into being a caring, loving human being, which just means actually getting out there and doing something. So that's it.
Powerful. Be conscious, be connected, be caring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really, thank you so much, Dr. Vidich. What I
My
would like
pleasure,
to
as
share,
always.
yes, always. And for any of you out there interested in studying the interfaith approach of spirituality, of all the world faiths and religions, it's really a wonderful program if you come and check out the new seminary for interfaith studies. Dr. Vidich is one of our main professor, um, well, teachers, I should say, of these courses. And it's been the kind of experience for many of our students where they can't get enough. They want like a full weekend of him, which of course is unreasonable, but requested often. And it's just, it's always a pleasure to be in your presence, and you're so appreciated in this community and throughout the world. And may we always be a place of support for you and a spiritual home of many that you are part of. So thank you once again. And
My pleasure. And I just want to say something about the Interfaith Temple, which I honor and respect the good work that you folks are doing. I mean, it is really, truly good work, because every generation of people who come through the Interfaith, the new seminary, are given some very illustrious and basic principles of spirituality, and can become the model that we need in this world right now. We need many, many more people who have broad understanding of the different traditions, of the unity behind them all, and who are committed to building bridges of peace and love in the world. And so your work is very, very, very important, very essential. And I would recommend to anybody who's listening to this to enroll in your programs right away. You will find them illuminating and worthwhile and life-changing. So,
thank you
little
so
plug
much.
there. I had to say that because I truly believe
Yeah, I didn't pay him for
the good
that.
work that you're doing.
What I would love to also say as an exclamation point is that, Reverend Dr. Jay Spites, who is now the executive director and has been for, I think we figured out 18 years, around that number. And one thing that's so key for people to understand about our approach is that we're here as the guides to bring the ministry of presence. More than anything, it's about being present. It's about understanding where you stand and what do you see from where you stand. And that's so key in being able to experience what's happening really in the world right now, and to have a perspective that can ground you, and that then you can ground the other people around you. And I really want to emphasize that that's really what this program is about. And the temple, we are the ordaining body of the new seminary, and it becomes the spiritual portal in which, graduates and people that are connected to the seminary can bring that joy and medicine to the world and to the community through this avenue. And so thank you for, being part of this family, and may we continue to grow and resonate out to more and more people.
Thank
Blessing.
you. Thank you. Blessings to you and to Dr. J and to everybody in your community.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Yes.